Now, throughout the Russia investigation, President Trump and the White House have downplayed certain figures that were once inside their campaign. Of course, they did that with Manafort, and they did it with George Papadopoulos. Now, Papadopoulos, of course, was maligned basically as a low-level coffee boy. That's always fun. Now, that's actually at odds with what we know about the role Papadopoulos has actually played. Now, Papadopoulos has pleaded guilty last October to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russian officials and is cooperating with Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team, according to a plea agreement. Court records show that Papadopoulos discussed with a Russian contact dirt on 2016 presidential candidate Hillary Clinton in the form of thousands of emails. I wonder what he was talking about. The emails, of course, were actually very instrumental in pointing out the corruption within the DNC. So I'm of the mind that I'm super happy that these emails came out. Nonetheless, these guys obviously knew about these emails, the existence of these emails, and we're talking about, and we're colluding on this issue. So anyway, this conversation, he said, told the Bureau he had before joining the Trump campaign, when in fact, this conversation happened when he was inside the Trump campaign, which would mean that the campaign was aware of these emails and was actually trying to collude with whoever had possession of these emails, which they say were Russia. Okay. Anyway, in the wake of the plea agreement's publication, President Trump, who once introduced Papadopoulos as one of his foreign policy advisors and an excellent guy, wrote on Twitter that he was a, quote, young, low-level volunteer. Michael Caputo, another Trump campaign advisor, said Papadopoulos was nothing more than a coffee boy. Oh, yeah, I told this guy to go and get my coffee, and that's pretty much all he did. Okay, how do you explain the picture when he was meeting with high-level staffers? When he was sitting at the table with Vladimir Putin? How do you explain that? Did he just walk up to the table and was just like, hey, Pootie, how's it going, dude? No, of course he was there on behalf of the Trump campaign. He was not a low-level staffer. He was not a coffee boy. Now, someone else who's now bolstering that story is, interestingly enough, somebody who might be a little bit biased, but this is his fiancée, Simona Mangiante, who had told ABC News that her soon-to-be husband was not the low-level volunteer at the Trump campaign that others had painted him as, countering that Papadopoulos was constantly in touch with high-level officials in the campaign, and Papadopoulos has the emails to prove it. So in case you're wondering, Jeff, there's no proof, right? No, they've got the emails, and Papadopoulos is like, I will give them to you. Here you go. Here's the proof that I was a high-level staffer and that I had done this. Now, she also said that Papadopoulos will instead be remembered not as a coffee boy, but as the, quote, the first domino in the Russia investigation. And I actually do believe she's right. I mean, look, first Papadopoulos pleaded guilty, and then down goes Manafort, down goes Flynn with whatever information. I mean, look, I don't know if Papadopoulos had information that brought Manafort down. It is possible. But again, there might be a connection, there might not be a connection. But if there is, well, then that of course proves that he is not the low-level guy that the administration painted him as. She continues, first of all, I would love George to learn how to make a coffee, because it's absolutely out of his skills. Oh, you don't know how to make coffee? It's pretty easy. She said that far from the inconsequential volunteer that others said he was, Mangiante said Papadopoulos, quote, set up meetings with leaders all over the world for senior Trump campaign officials. She said that she had seen correspondence between Papadopoulos and Steve Bannon and Michael Flynn, two of Trump's highest campaign officials. So, again, here's the Trump campaign and Trump himself lying about the role Papadopoulos played in his campaign. Why would you lie about that? Why would you say, oh no, low-level staffer, coffee boy? When he clearly actually played a much larger role inside of the Trump campaign. Why would you try to do that? Oh, right, maybe it's because you're worried about that Russia investigation. I don't know, maybe. Mangiante, an Italian citizen, said she was questioned by the FBI in Chicago about her past political work at the European Parliament in Brussels and about her work for the same Russian contact that Papadopoulos lied to the FBI about. She said that she received a subpoena in October, but was ultimately not compelled to testify before a grand jury because FBI agents found her interview sufficient. She added that the FBI has been, quote, fair. Okay. Now, fair. For somebody whose husband had done a plea deal with the FBI, she's like, hey, the FBI has been playing it straight. And look, I believe that because when you look at the investigation, when you look at what Robert Mueller is doing, again, he fired a guy for a lawyer that had anti-Trump messages, right? He's like, you're anti-Trump, you're off the case. I want this thing down the middle. I want to go where the facts are, and that's it. Like, we're not going to take the risk that this is seen as a partisan political witch hunt, because that's not the direction you want to go. You do want to play it straight, and that's exactly what Mueller is doing. He wants no question, no matter what he finds. He could find that Trump and the Trump campaign are completely innocent, and there was absolutely no collusion, right? He could find that, or he could find that there was collusion that would be criminal in nature. Now, whatever he finds, he wants to make sure that his investigation had been done in the most thorough and professional way, as to add zero question about the results. And that makes sense. That's what I would do if I were investigating, doing any sort of investigation. Now, as to her husband, Mangiante tells ABC News, quote, George is very loyal to his country. He's already on the right side of history, and I think he will make a big difference. Talk about loyalty. Hey, Papadopoulos, if you're listening, she's a keeper. Keep her. I might disagree with the loyalty part, as I think he did lie to... No, as it was proven that he lied to the FBI to try to get dirt on a candidate from another country seeking to meddle in our elections. Now, we've meddled in other people's elections, and it was wrong when we did that. And it's also wrong when another country tries to meddle in ours. That's a problem. And that's a problem that I would like to see go away. I would like to see us not interfere in other countries' elections, and I would love to see other countries try to not interfere into ours. That's the whole purpose here of finding out how we were basically meddled with, even if it didn't have that huge of an impact. And I personally believe it didn't, because again, with the emails, we didn't find out really anything that we didn't already know. It really confirmed our suspicions that there was rigging inside of the DNC in favor of Hillary Clinton, and that she was very pro-bank. Wow, big surprise, right? Nonetheless, this is the dirt that they tried to have. And you can see that you could say that it was successful because President Trump had won, but really, this was Hillary Clinton's race to lose, and she lost it terribly. Anyway, now, this information, whatever he had, whatever he gave to the FBI, was significant enough to warrant a plea deal. So that automatically pushes back, again, against the coffee boy thing, because again, Mueller's not going to give a plea deal to somebody who doesn't have any real information, who actually cannot help the actual investigation. Now, the extent of which his input helps the investigation, we're not going to know explicitly, but it had to be enough, right? Now, the other thing is, if he has any information that helps Mueller find out if Trump or any other member of the administration had done anything wrong, that will help find it. And in the end, make sure that they don't get away with it if there was any wrongdoing. And that's the whole point.